Writing a fantasy novel is no easy feat. More often than not, these great tales of wizards, goblins, and swashbuckling mice veer into multiple lanes, splitting off in several directions, as is indicative of the genre. It's difficult to say the least, and sometimes even the best fuck up. And boy, do they fuck up. Loamhedge is the 16th novel in the fantasy adventure series Redwall. Written by the late, great Brian Jakes, it follows the tale of Martha Braybuck and her search for a cure to her paralysis. As the story unravels, there's adventure, death, and the peace-loving Redwall creatures find themselves under siege by the evil tyrant Raga Bol and his crew of sea rats. I realize that saying this story simply unravels would be an understatement. It doesn't unravel. It falls apart. I can rightfully say that, of all the books I've read in this series, Loamhedge is the weakest. There's so much I have to bitch about that I had to number them in the script. Hell, the numbers have bullet points. I will say that the book was really good up into the final act. This isn't the first fantasy novel I've read that's done this, and I think a lot of books in this genre suffer from, shall we say, third-half rot, because of how complicated and intricate they can be. It can be difficult to tie them up neatly. Does this mean I'm going to take it easy on any writer that does this? No. Especially when it's one of my favorites. Alright, number 1. I might as well start with the most glaring issue. Loamhedge is a watered-down version of the original Redwall. I know that Brian Jakes' novels all have the same idea behind them, but they aren't exactly the same. Like many, Jakes had his own tropes that he liked to use. However, when you take into consideration how similar Loamhedge is to Redwall, it's kind of depressing. I'll even go as far as to say it's a near shot-for-shot remake of Matty Mayo. You have the Abbey's warriors going out on an adventure, leaving the others to defend themselves when their home comes under siege. Sure, this has happened before, but there was some sort of differentiation. Here, it feels like a half-assed reboot. Number 2. In the story, Martha is spoken to by Martin the Warrior in a dream, as is common in all Redwall novels. And she's told that the cure for her paralysis will be found in Loamhedge. More or less. It's told to her in rhyme, which I never understood because Martin spoke just fine when he was alive. Maybe everyone gets artsy after death. So the two Redwall warriors, Bragoon and Sarabando, go out in search of Loamhedge and the cure for Martha. But by the time the third act rolls around, Martha's up and walking. And Jakes even acknowledges that the subplot of Bragoon and Sarabando getting the cure is pointless because Martha flat out says that, now that she's walking, there's no need for them to go on this journey. However, a plot has to happen, so the warriors are still out in the wilderness in search of a cure they don't need. Number 3. Horty Braybuck is Martha's older brother, older than her by about 4 seasons. In the story, he takes the mantle of a careless teenager who wants to go on an adventure, but ends up learning that life isn't all sunshine and unicorn farts. Or does he? Actually, no, he doesn't. Not only does he and his friends Finna and Springold cause issues within the Abbey, endangering the Abbey's children and stealing from the kitchens before fleeing on their adventure, they prove to be deadweights. Bragoon and Sarabando had to double back and save them when they got captured by cannibals. But it gets better. The reason that Horty is worse than the other two is that he is, by far, the most self-absorbed, conceited character I've ever seen in a Redwall novel. Not once on the journey with Bragoon and Sarabando does he speak of his sister. He never says that he cares for her. He never mentions that the journey is to find a cure for her. All he does is bitch and moan about how hungry and footsore he is. Sure, he does help a little. All 3 of them do. But that doesn't make up for them being completely useless to the plot. And detrimental. Speaking of which, number 4. Just as a warning, this will contain spoilers. If you wish to avoid them, please click the time in the description. Anyway, towards the end, when the warriors are on the way home, they're attacked by Orwerit and his tribe after venturing into their territory. Because Horty and his gal pals refused to stay home like the abbots said, and they decided they were going along, they get caught up in the fight. So the 2 Abbey warriors sacrifice themselves so that the 3 kids can escape. The 2 most enjoyable characters in the book die going on an unneeded mission, all because 3 spoiled little assholes refuse to listen and stay home. Usually Brian Jakes does a great job of killing off characters, and the death of Bragoon and Sarabando should have been heart-wrenching. Hell, They died holding hands. But, and I've said but way too many times, because they were going on a journey where they didn't even find what they were looking for, and they had to save a bunch of sniveling brats, their deaths felt unneeded and cheap. You have moments, like the death of Methuselah or Veal, that make you appreciate Jake's writing prowess. And then you have moments like this that make Loamhedge feel like fanfiction. Number 5. Amidst all the drama, there is another subplot about a great badger named Lona. Lona and his elderly friend were attacked at the beginning of the novel by Ragal Bull and his sea rats, and his friend died as a result. Seeking vengeance, his plot was really the only one I found myself enjoying. Through the entire novel, he keeps sending these visions to Ragal Bull, taunting him about his inevitable defeat. They finally meet in the Abbey, and I was really pumped for this battle. Despite all the annoyances in the story, I was looking forward to a kick-ass fight. If there's one thing Jakes was always good at, it was creating these grand, warlike battles that paint images of blood and mayhem in your mind. From Martin's battle with Tazarmina and Mossflower to Matthias and Clooney the Scourge, even the battles at the end of the Long Patrol and the Bellmaker were epic in scale. I couldn't wait to see what Loamhedge had in store. And my, how I was disappointed. There was no real battle. There was no conquest. Unlike the last scene of Redwall, where Clooney and Matthias spent 2 pages battling it out, or the short yet potent fight between Triss and Cruda in the book Triss, this battle lasted 2 paragraphs. After spending the entire story honing his bow, and even having the Redwall beasts make him arrows, Lona snaps Ragal Bull's neck and then uses him as a club to beat the rest of his sea rats to death. Granted, that is funny, but I don't think Jakes was going for funny. Because of the unneeded plot of the warriors looking for Martha's cure, a lot of the good parts in the story were shortened and downplayed. What's Martha's reason for finally walking? Well, she finally had the willpower to do it. How does Lona kill Ragal Bull? He snaps his spine like an angry redneck playing with a rattlesnake. This final battle should have been the icing on a very tasty cake. Instead, it was a squirt of whipped cream on an unpolished turd. And really, that's the ultimate issue with this book. It's unpolished. Jake spent so much time trying to weave a narrative with unlikable characters and unnecessary padding that the important things were all but snuffed out. If this was the very first Redwall book I'd ever read, I might go a little easier, but I don't believe in going easy simply because you like a person. Brian Jakes was an amazing writer. He inspired me to write, and because of that, I'm not holding any punches. Loamhedge gets a D+. I'm currently in the process of reading Rackety Tam, the book after Loamhedge. I was going to abandon Redwall for a while and read some Stephen King, but I need some reassurance. I'm really hoping that Loamhedge is just a fluke and that the series doesn't start going down from here. Not all the books have been perfect. As a matter of fact, the first 3 novels were probably the best, though I really do love Merrill of Redwall and The Bellmaker. But I'm just hoping that this isn't sort of a downward spiral, because there's 23 books in the series, and I'm at book 16. Anyway, thanks for watching. If you have any requests for review, let me know in the comment section below.